What's up, you guys? Hey, it's Chaz Foster here with the Chaz Way podcast, and I'm excited for week number 6. And my guest, my friend, this rock star, Tyson Hanes, is here with us today. So what's up, Tyson?
Week 6?
Week
I
6.
wasn't number 1? All right. Well, I'll take 6, I guess.
Hey, so the reason it's week number 6 is obviously it's the 6th week of the year. Not, I say obviously, it's not obvious. And your screen just went away. He's like, it's not week 1, I'm done.
Exactly. I'm gone.
Well, that was a wrap. Thanks for coming. But hey, just quickly, just to kind of set the tone for the week, I just want to thank you guys for being on and listening and watching whatever it is that you're doing. Seems like every single week our viewership continues to grow, and we get such a cool response from. I think it's cool that I kind of am all over the board with the guests that we bring on to these shows, and the reason is because I always want to bring value. That's like the number one goal of what I feel like we represent with this Chaz Way podcast, is to just make sure we're bringing value. And value comes from a lot of different places and a lot of sources. It can be whether it's talking about spiritual stuff, whether it's talking about dirt bikes, whether it's talking about music, whether it's talking about real estate, whether it's talking about life, as long as we are bringing value so that the person on the other end either may benefit from it or knows somebody that's benefiting. And I believe that whether it falls on the right ears, or somebody knows somebody that needs to hear something. For me, it's, my journey is a lot about weight loss. And so, and weight gain, it's been a journey. And so for me, like, that's what hits home. So sometimes I say my journey is not necessarily about me, and it may not be about the person that happens to hear the podcast, but maybe somebody they know needed to hear it. Right. And so I feel like that's the case every week. There is a story within a story. And, and this week is no different than that. I'll give you guys just a quick, set up before I let Tyson kind of take the floor and introduce himself. So I feel like I preface this when I bring on different friends, because I feel like I need to explain this. I started in radio at 17 years old. I'm from California. I lived in the Central Valley, Modesto, Stockton area. And I started in radio for a hot adult contemporary station as a morning show producer, which means not a lot to most people. But that's basically, that was how I got in as a volunteer. I worked for a really cool morning show. I was there for about a year. I was there a few months, got on as paid staff. And my dream, believe it or not, then was to work for Cat Country 103, which was the country station there. My heart has always been country music. And I got on at 18 years old. The program director for that country station called me on a Saturday day shift, called the studio line, and offered me a gig. Pretty sure that was not the right way to handle that. I kind of give him credit. He had some balls to do that, but he goes, "Hey man, Ed Hill, the big kahuna." And I was like, there's no way this is Ed Hill, and he's like, "Yeah, man, you're great. You looking for a gig?" And I'm like, it's my dream to work for you. Yeah, which was totally not cool of me either to take the gig over, but whatever. So I got to.
Did he call himself the big kahuna?
Yes. Yeah. Ed Hill,
awesome. Right.
The big kahuna. Yeah. And he was the program director. So, which means, the boss basically did the programming, but he was also a midday personality there. And he was really good. But he offered me my first gig at a station that was like my dream job. And I only set that up because my heart's always been radio or country music. But because of that opportunity, I went over there, and to get it to work so that I could afford to work there, they gave me the evening shift or overnight shift. I was like 18. And then I also got to be the assistant promotions director. And I only tell everybody all that, including you, Tyson, because it gave me an opportunity to work with a lot of artists. It gave me an opportunity to work around the music industry at a pretty young age. And I love the music business. I had some really cool opportunities. And someday I'll share that with people, because I've got to do things that have been really an awesome experience. And having said all that, I'm super critical of music artists. I've been to thousands, and when I say thousands, people probably roll their eyes, but I literally have been to thousands of shows. I'm 44 years old, worked in radio a few years. So I was at every show in those days. And then I've been a DJ forever. So I've worked in different genres. I managed bands. I worked in the ticketing industry for years. So every genre of music most of them I've been around, and I love music of all sorts, particularly country. I'm critical. I watch the artists. I watch the production. I was telling my buddy last week is he's into motocross, and his son races full-time arena cross. And I was telling him that the last event I went to, I was blown away by the production. And he was like, "Yeah, really?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I watch, man. I watch how's the music, how's the arena announcer, that's just what I watch is production." And so I'm in Nashville in April. And I hadn't been to Nashville since 2009. And I mean, it was busy in 2009, but bro, I had no idea it was so crazy like now. And I granted,
whole other world. Yeah.
Whole nother world. And I understand the week I got there. I think you actually were the one that told me when I visited with you there, and we'll get into that in a second. And I'm just kind of setting up how we met. That's why I kind of share all that stuff. But I think the week before I got there was the week that they like opened up COVID restrictions. And so I think that's probably why it was so crazy. But everybody I talked to said, man, this is Nashville now. This is the new Nashville. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, this is what you see. In fact, my buddy that I interviewed last week was there last Sunday, and he said, oh, it was like that Sunday. He said, it's not just Friday, Saturday, you know, it's crazy. So it was insane. But the cool part about it being insane, you know, it's Friday night, we're on the strip, and I'm like overwhelmed. I don't like chaos. Like I love a good time. I don't like chaos. I don't like chaos at all. If I can't like make sure my surroundings are safe and that like I'm with Anna and I'm trying to make sure she's safe, I don't like chaos. And so we pop off the strip, just a quick right turn. And I don't know the name of the street. I'm sure you do, but Kid Rock's right on the one corner. Johnny Cash is 2 doors down. And then Big Machine is a couple doors down on the other side. And I'm like, let's pop into Johnny Cash's, right? And it was not on my radar to go there. It just happened that we popped in. And you guys are playing. You and a girl, I think her name Kelsey? Maybe.
I believe it would have been Kelsey at that time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Kelsey.
Dude, I loved it. I had a blast. It was a fun time. You guys are rocking. You're killing it. Stage show's awesome. Energy's good. The whole band was fun. And it was just an awesome time. So I'm going to stop there. And that's just like, I want like the guests, the listeners or the viewers to understand that's how I know Tyson. That's how I met you. The reason that's crazy. So long story short, Anna and I closed the bar down. We actually stayed until the next set. I think you guys were off at about 11. We came in at probably 7:30 or 8. We stayed for your whole set, had an absolute blast. You guys were incredible. And the reason I gave the backstory, Tyson, is because I am critical of music, not because I'm better than anybody, not because I'm trying to be judgy, but I enjoy a good time. I enjoy sing-along songs. I enjoy entertainment, production, and I had an absolute blast, which says a lot about who you are as an artist. So I want to commend you for that and tell you that we had a blast. That's why we stayed, you know? So it was awesome.
Thank you. That's why I do it.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
And so I like critical people coming in. It means a bit more for the show's sake anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And so we obviously got to visit afterwards just a little bit, and then we've stayed kind of in touch since then, which has been a real blessing to me, just to network and build relationships with more people. What I didn't know, and you'll talk more about this is a very long intro, but what I didn't know is that you're into dirt bikes, you're into flying these crazy copter thingies. We'll talk more about that. Like you're quite a character. You own your own business outside of music. So I want to talk about all that, and I'd like you to talk about all that. But all that said, I asked Tyson to be on because he's not only is an incredible country music artist. I want to make sure that you get to plug and really talk about your love and your passion for you as an artist, but also for you as a human and as a family man as well. And so, without further ado, why don't you just introduce yourself and we can kind of go into your story from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name's Tyson Hanes. I'm originally from Ontario, Canada, a little place called Sault Ste. Marie. It's right on the border of Michigan. So that's where I grew up. Basically the first 20 odd years of my life. And actually, like you, I ended up getting into radio around 16. I believe I got like into into a country station as an intern through high school. So I actually I love that. I kind of almost wanted to do that at that point, but ended up moving to Nashville to pursue the music career. I came down to Nashville my first time at 19. And just came down for about 4 months, kind of scope things out, see if I could hack it. At that point, I would say I couldn't, but I went home, I regrouped, I saved, and I moved here at 23. And I'm 32 now. Been living here ever since. I think I'm 32. I'm losing track of years, but I've been living here ever since. Doing music full time. COVID hit. I opened up a moving company. transferred into freight hauling, still doing music, and just trying to put the trying to focus a little more on the original music. I got kind of caught up on the Nashville Broadway play 6 shows a week kind of lifestyle, and you sort of lose track of that original reason you came here in the first place. So I kind of take a step back, get back into the original writing and putting my own stuff out there, and that's where I kind of am now. I'm still playing shows, just looking to get out of Nashville a little more often and put my own stuff out there.
Get out of Nashville as far as branch out, like just be heard in other places.
Yeah. I mean, I found I've met, everybody I know basically has came through Nashville. That's where I've met them. So you can stay here and have this as your hub, no problem. And you don't even have to leave. You can make a living, you can meet people. But I've just really been enjoying getting out a little more often and escaping the craziness of Broadway as you saw it. That whole new normal people were saying about COVID, that didn't happen here. There's no new normal of it going downhill. It went skyrocketed, and it's just chaos night after night after night, which is, it's great, but it wears on you eventually.
Sure.
I love being on stage with a packed crowd that can't move. That's a lot of fun. They're having a good time. But when you get off that stage, it's you're just in the midst of everybody else. So
yeah,
I had to take a step back and be like, I need to get out of town once in a while.
Yeah. I want to like chew that up a little bit. First of all, so I didn't know that. I know you do the moving company stuff. I didn't know that actually didn't come until COVID. So was that you just like having to regroup and think, okay, how do I make a living when this, essentially the streets are shut down, right? Like everybody, we all had to kind of or a lot of people had to readjust their life to financially, right? Is that where that came from? Yeah.
So, as far as the Nashville music goes, if you're playing full time, on Broadway, things like that, you can make a good living doing that. So everybody gets set in their ways of whatever they're making. But once COVID hit, that knocked out the music industry to the point there was nothing there. And when you're a musician, you're self-employed, there's nobody to help you. There's no financial backing at all. So you got to get creative or, man, I'm losing it here. I wonder if can I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and still
that's probably the best.
And I won't lose you?
I don't think so. We'll find out.
We're still there?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Apparently everybody wants to call me when I do something. I didn't have calls all day. So you kind of just get put into panic mode of what do I do? Luckily for me, I've always been kind of handy, I guess, with just random things. I'm able to do small engine work, things like that, buy, flip, sell. And before I moved to Nashville, I had driven trucks for a delivery company up there. And so I kind of had experience in that realm. And I was just like, you know what? I saw an opening in the moving industry. Everybody was saying how bad it was to find good movers. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to try this thing out while we're not doing music and see if I can create kind of a plan B, or not even a plan B, but just something on top of music.
Yeah.
That COVID thing really showed me that there was just nobody had our backs.
Yeah.
So I kind of fend for yourself. So no, I opened that throughout COVID and just kind of kept with it.
Yeah. And so, your intention is to stick with that, at least for now.
Well, actually already transitioned out of the moving business. It was, first off, with COVID, I couldn't find employees for the life of me. And when you do, they'd like to show up for a week and then leave or something because it's hard work.
Yeah.
So I transferred over into freight hauling, which is a lot less strenuous on people's body. It's a little easier to find employees to drive trucks. And I'm continuing that while doing music. Yeah.
And with the freight stuff, you're able to find, like you mentioned, employees. So are you able to find maybe a couple of guys that can do some of the work that maybe you're doing some more of like the behind the scenes stuff, and those guys can get some of the loads done?
Exactly. That's the kind of the ultimate goal with that is still to have a backing, but still stick with music to as full extent as possible, still write record, and play live shows as much as possible.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and we'll try and make sure we hit at least the majority of those. So I think that's awesome that you did that. What's cool about that is that shows some resiliency, just the willingness and the ability to like figure out a plan when COVID hits. So when COVID hit, it was interesting. So I was actually in network marketing at that time. And it was crazy because COVID hit for me. March 9th was the day that I really remember of 2020. And I don't like to give a lot of energy to COVID. So you probably won't hear me talk a lot about it.
I'm with you.
What's interesting is February like 20th, that last week of February, I had gone to a training for this network marketing. I went to a lot of trainings, and it just so happened that weekend, the training I was at opened up with a personal development section, which is my jam. Like I love personal development. Generally, those weekend events ended with personal development. This one opened with it. And which was ironic because nobody knew COVID was going to happen the next, 2 weeks later. But they happened to, and I don't remember the name of the book. I have it. I just don't have it in front of me. I bring this up a lot. I need to just have it on top of my memory. But the guy that was on stage was referencing this book. And basically what he was talking about was like remaining neutral, having a calm, confident ability. And this guy that wrote this book, the guy that wrote this book that the gentleman that was there was referring to, the book is about this guy who he trains professional athletes on your mental side. So there's a lot of physical work that goes into these pro athletes, right? But there's also a lot of mental side. And I'll actually mention it. I'll put it in the comments in the description of this, and I'll also send it to you because it's a great book. But he talks about remaining calm and confident, having a neutral mindset when life kind of lifes you, And I just couldn't help but take that with me. Like I could have let that COVID thing destroy me. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to play into it. Again, I'm not going to give a lot of energy to it. But I chose to do exactly that. I would go live all the time. I'm like, man, you guys have options here. Like, just do yourself the biggest favor and just blinders on, dude. Stay focused.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I give that a huge. COVID was that year. 2020 was a life changer for me in probably 10 different ways, financially, relationally, business. Like I changed businesses. A lot of great things happened for me that year.
Yeah.
And I know that there was a lot of bad things that happened for a lot of people. And I don't discount the importance of it. But I also know that we had a choice, and you can rise through those things. And that's exactly what you did. And that's my point to that, is that you chose to like figure it out. You could have easily freaked out,
Yeah. You go one of two ways, right? It's either resiliency or it's not. So
yeah, absolutely. So music's your thing forever. It's awesome because one of my questions was, you talked about songwriting and wanting to get a little bit out of Nashville. Let me like dig into that with you a little bit. When you talk about wanting to get out of Nashville, actually, before I do that, what's your ultimate goal with music?
So, for my entire career, it's been obviously score a record deal, play arenas, open for Garth Brooks, and then have him open for me after. But
yes, sir.
Growing as an artist and actually just as a human, I guess, as a person, that is a goal now, but it's not. I don't know if it's top priority anymore. I don't know that I want to be locked down to a record label for the next 25 years of my life. The money's great. That's awesome. But I have a family here now. I have my daughter in Canada that I can go see whenever I want to now, COVID restrictions aside. But so now it's almost more of, that would be great, but I kind of want to have success on my own now. I'm not looking into the whole get a record label, get rich and famous kind of thing. I'd rather get a big following myself, get my music out there. I'm still trying to keep my music to where it's important. I'm trying never to give into that. Let's find a good beat and call it country music. I still want my music to have importance to it and to be able to tell stories and get it out there to enough people to where it can make a difference again, and I can still make a living doing it.
All right.
So the priorities, I guess, have kind of changed. Still would love to tour around and, like I said, do it full time, but under my own terms and not some big corporations.
Yeah, well, that's great. So let's flip that a little bit. So in today's world, 2020, today's world, and I'm not even talking about COVID, just in the social media world.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I was talking about this on last week's podcast because the guy I was interviewing, it was really a lot about motocross stuff, but it turns out he had a writing deal in like the early 2000s, late 90s in Nashville. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a writer. And we were talking, and I was like, so where does that put you today? Like, are you locked in? He's like, well, I'm locked in for like 25 years on those songs, but none of them have ever been picked up, And so anyways, and I was just talking about like, so I was in radio in like the mid 90s. And I've loved country radio forever, as I mentioned earlier. So to me, like the 90s was a whole different world of radio, but not just radio. It was also a different world of record labels. It was a different world of how, like, so I sang as well. I don't write, never have written, but I sang, and actually my dream was to have a record deal. Back in the 90s, that was what I wanted to do. But the reality, and also back then there was like we'll call it a handful of labels. Like, there might've been 10 or 20 labels and probably another 5 or 10 that we didn't know about. But if you look at the MCAs, the Curbs, the Warner Brothers, all those guys, there was probably like 5 or 10 like hardcore names. When you moved there at 22 or whenever you moved back, there was a handful of hardcore labels, right? So today, it's actually, in my opinion, and I'm not in Nashville, it's not all about the record deal. You could actually gain fame, notoriety, and financial, not freedom, but you can make an income because of social media. So do you have a desire to go that route?
So I do. Social media is not my strong point. I've tried to work on it for a while because I need to. My weak point has always been social media. I'm like, hey, I can write the songs, I can perform the songs, put me out there, but I need somebody running my social media because I'm just not good. I've never been a technology guy, and I'm okay with putting myself out there and stuff. I just have never enjoyed being on my computer, being on my phone, 24/7, or the amount these influencers and things like that have to be on their phones or on their computers, hashtagging and making these clever quotes and posts. They're on their phones a lot, and I just don't enjoy that. I've always kind of enjoyed being in the moment in real life. So it's a huge learning curve that I still haven't been able to grasp, and I need to if I want to go the route I'm trying to go. But I almost need a coach or something like that.
No, that's cool. I can help you with a little bit. I'm by no means am I like the pro by any means, but I have done some, I've dabbled a little bit in, like, I've done some learning, and I'll share what I can share. I'm certainly, again, no pro, but I think to become what you're talking about becoming, it's like one of those deals where it's like whether you want to or not, to become relevant. If you choose to break in on the social media side, you do have to. But I also love the idea of living in the moment. Anna, like, we have a crazy story, and it is a very social media story. Like, we have a crazy story, but it's a lot of work. We built a lot of our, like, because she and I sing, and we sing together, and everything we did was live. But then it gets to a point where, like, you almost have to turn yourself on when you do that. Like, and that's not who I want to be. I just don't want to be that.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough balance for sure. Like, my wife stepped in big time, and basically she was handling all the social media stuff for a while. But even after a while, we both kind of fall off it, and we start doing normal life and forget that it's got to be a priority. It's just hard to keep it that way.
Yeah, for sure, man. But you can take baby steps. We'll talk about that another time off the air. We could definitely have a conversation about it. Okay, cool. So a record deal isn't necessarily the deal. It's just about being out there and being heard. How much do you feel like you spread your original music with your covers? Like, when you're playing Broadway, are you playing all covers? Because people want sing-along songs.
Yeah. So that's another thing that kind of wears on you, I guess. Everybody on. So if anybody listening hasn't been to Nashville, Broadway is your main drag. That is where all the bars are. Honky Tonks, that's where your live music mecca is. And everybody's down there for a party, a good time. Record labels these days are not going down to Broadway. Nobody who's anybody's going there unless they're just going to party and let loose. Sure. But Uh, yeah. So 99% you were playing covers. The only time you really, I mean, you can play originals, but you're not going to keep the crowd into it long enough to play more than one. And, um, you're not going to make the money because your money comes from tips and song requests. So people are waiting to hear the songs they know. And there's an odd person that's going to tip you to play original, and that's really cool. And people get into it, but again, you just can't do that over and over. Or people are going to lose interest and want to hear the songs that they know.
Yeah.
Regardless of how good your song is, if people heard Cruise for the first time ever at a bar, they're not going to pay attention to it until it's famous on the radio.
Exactly.
So
100%. Yeah, no, totally. And is that frustrating for you as an artist? Like, because you can become a cover artist, or I guess I'm answering the question I'm asking. Is it frustrating for you as an artist, not a cover band, but as an artist? Is that hard for you?
So I mean, I guess it could be depending on how you keep your mindset, but not for me personally. If you look at most of I shouldn't say most, a lot of the singers out there, they don't write their own music anyways. So they're basically glorifying, karaoke. They're doing a great job at it, mind you. Like Jason Aldean, he hasn't written a single hit that he's ever had, and he kills it. He's an A-list artist. George Strait, no hits as a songwriter. So it's like you look at that and you're like, I mean, they're huge and they never need to write a song in their lives.
Right.
And getting to sing cover songs is not a bad thing. Even the biggest artists do it in their concerts. So no, it's not really frustrating. It's just at the same time, you're like, why can't I get one of my songs to be there so I can sing it in front of this many people and get that kind of energy out of it?
Yeah. Okay, let me nerd out for a minute. Like sometimes on the podcast, there's things that are like, I try to make it all about the guest or about the listener. And then I'm like, okay, there's things that are like really actually feed me. So one thing that feeds me is like I want to know, like, how are you like super networking? Like, are you networking with a lot? Like you mentioned all the people that you know come through Nashville. So I think you played, I know you've played a lot of different places, but you recently were like in Key West. Talk about the places that you play outside of town and how are those gigs coming up?
Actually, yeah, majority of the out of town gigs do come through people, especially if they're more private events. We do a lot of private shows and things like that, and those are all people that have rolled through the shows naturally and just ended up giving me their card or take my information. If they need some live music, and they love that. It's always the energy of the show, because that's what I focus on with our live shows, all about the energy and keeping it Garth Brooks style, I like to call it.
Yeah. So, and by the way, that's really funny you just said that. Garth is my favorite artist in the world. I've been a Garth fan since I was very young. I'm 44. So I actually don't talk about that all the time now because Garth's been around for so long. It's like 20 years ago, I would have been like, it would have been everything in my wall. In fact, I have this picture frame right here and there's a lot of Garth stuff on it, but it's not like my day-to-day talk about. But it's funny that you just referenced you in that Garth analogy because you do have a lot of similarities as far as your style.
As far as live music goes, I've always tried to base my show around what I watched him do growing up, because he was untouchable as far as that live entertainment factor goes. So outside of having the pyro that I wish I could have, or the ladders from an arena ceiling that I can fly across, I try to do everything in my ability to keep it insane energy and just crowd entertainment to keep people in awe if I can, and learn that from him for sure.
For sure. That's so awesome, dude. I love that. Are you a Chris Ledoux fan?
Yeah. I think you kind of have to be a little bit if you're a major Garth Brooks fan. You got to like Chris Ledoux a bit, right?
Yeah, man. His
Garth Brooks wouldn't be there if he wasn't there. So
for sure. And his style, like, I got to see, and I'm so thankful I got to see Chris Ledoux several times. Some in California when I was in radio, and then I got to see him in Oklahoma when I first moved here 2 times, maybe 3, and he was a one heck of an entertainer, man. And it's crazy because you know, if you ever listen to Chris Ledoux story, he was just a rodeo guy. This was never what he wanted to do, but he did it, and he did it so well. And for a guy who just did rodeo and chewed Copenhagen and rode bulls or rode, you know, saddle bronc, whatever, he just he was one heck of an entertainer. It was crazy. But what a similarity he had with Garth. And then of course they had, you know, they did some smash music together too. But yeah, that's crazy. Yep. So when you go do these like gigs with other people, like are you building, so you don't, are you booked with anybody? Are you managing booking? Are you doing it all on your own? You and just you, or is your wife involved?
No, my wife's majorly involved in that. For a while there's no way I could have even kept up with that. But yeah, so she's huge involved, but me and her take care of everything.
Cool.
Yep.
And you want to keep, like, would you love to keep it that way if you can, as long as possible?
I guess as long as we can handle it. But of course I would like it if it got to a point where we couldn't handle it.
Sure.
And we would have to bring in somebody in. But then you gotta really trust people when you start handing that card out.
And you're also handing away a piece of the pie as well. And you don't want to, I certainly don't mean that from a greed standpoint, but I mean,
right.
At the end of the day,
if you
can keep it in-house,
exactly,
nice, financially.
If you're able to still financially keep that stability and be able to have somebody do that, that's definitely the goal. But yeah, if we don't need it, there's no reason. I know a lot of people who go that route and have no more success at it, but are giving away that piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I've seen both sides as well. I totally get it. I've also seen people end up with booking agents, and then they don't have any say in where they play or who they play to, and that can frustrate you. And also, live shows are a different world these days. So, you know, I have friends in radio to this day that are like, dude, like radio shows are even different, like as far as, I mean, it's just it's a different ball game nowadays. It's a different world. So okay, what about like when you, sorry, door opened, when you go out and let me shift gears. When you're writing, are you like, how is that your love? What do you love more, writing music or being live?
I go through phases of both. Live has always been it's my main thing. That's definitely where I excel. And that's where I started. And that's why people know me, I think, is the live show. So it's hard to say I enjoy anything more than that. But there is times where, like I said, I was playing every single day of a week sometimes. And to just get to sit down with either by myself or with co-writers and just sit there and chill out, hang out, write a good song. Once in a while, that's just really needed. But I would say live performance is majority of the time is going to be where I go to strive for everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Do you do you co-write a lot? Are you writing with a lot of, like, are you combining things with, I don't know the terminology, but are you co-writing with a lot of Nashville guys? And is that, I guess that's the first question. Yeah.
So I was for a while prior to COVID. That was a priority to make sure I've kind of cut myself off the heels with living where I do, because we moved 45 minutes out of downtown and out of, Music Row, because this is how I got property, and it's totally worth the drive. I love it out here. The only problem is if you're wanting to write every single day or every single morning, you're doing that drive, and then you play a late show. Yeah. It's like you go in the morning, you go write a song, you come home, you eat dinner, you go back to play a show, you come back at 4 a.m. Makes for long days. But no, I was making that a priority to write with people as much as possible, especially when I was getting my album ready and writing for that. And then COVID hit, and I kind of, obviously everybody got out of it. It turned to virtual, things like that. And I haven't really got back to co-writing enough since COVID, I would say. So I've been doing a lot of writing on my own, and maybe even pitching that to somebody else to kind of critique or add what they need to and get a co-write in there. But I definitely need to get back into it a little more as far as getting in person in a room with somebody and writing some hits.
Do you have somebody in Nashville that's producing all your stuff, and do you use one studio and one producer? How does that work?
No, well, as far as my first professionally done album was the one we're actually about to get a release date for here. We're going to be releasing the whole album really soon. We have 6 singles out off it. The producer is Saul Philcox, who has been a part of all the big artists that are hitting now. I mean, Trey Lewis, he's done a ton with Luke Combs, and the list goes on for him. So he's really successful, and he's one of the best guitar players in Nashville, and kind of came through as a producer too. So we used him for the album. We jumped around with studios when it came to vocals. We'd go one place. We did a couple different studios for vocals, and a couple different studios for the instrumentals too. So yeah, you just, I don't know. I kind of follow the producer on that. Wherever he tells me to go, that's where I'm showing up.
Dude, I love that. That's awesome. And what about musicians? Are you using? Do you just use? I mean, Nashville is full of them. So how do you choose that? Same thing, producers?
Yeah. So going into it, I was just going to use my live band, thinking that's, they're amazing. Why wouldn't I use them? Turns out there's just this whole other world of studio musicians.
Sure.
And, some are able to be the best at studio and live, but they're two different worlds. You wouldn't know it being outside the music industry, but they are two different worlds. And so I went with the producers, guys, and couldn't have turned out better. It was to just watch them bring a song to life, a song that they've never heard before. And I mean, within minutes, they have got this song sounding like something you'd hear every day on the radio. So yeah, they're another breed.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. So the album that you're referring to, you have 6 songs, the 6 singles. Did you say singles already on it? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the one with Exit 40.
Yes.
So
we got another six songs on the album that are unreleased.
Okay. So I wanted to actually talk about that song. That would be your newest release, Exit 40?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to think for a minute what it is.
Do you have something else like about to pop, or what? You have another one that's on the way?
We're just going to throw the whole album at you.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. We decided Exit 40 was the last single by itself. We got to get this album out. We got to get to work on a new one.
Okay, cool. So talk about Exit 40. Did you write that on your own? Is it co-written? I didn't look. I just don't know.
Yeah, no. Exit 40 is a 3-way write. Myself, Richard Martin, and Ian McConnell wrote that.
Okay.
Kind of cool how that one came to formation, actually. We went there. We went specifically to Richard's house. His name's Richard Martin, but we call him Richie, so it's just weird saying Richard. We went to Richie's house specifically to do a 3-way co-write, and you kind of, sometimes somebody has an idea they want to write about. Other times, like, hey, what are we gonna write about today, or what are we feeling? That day, I was just like, man, I had an idea in my head that I'm like, I want to write a song about like pulling off an exit, and there just being nothing there, like it's an old abandoned exit. I'm like, there was a song title in that. There's exit 40, exit 50, whatever it may be. And Ian's like, no way, man. He's like, I had this song from when I years and years ago that I wrote called Exit 40, but he's like, it's not, I wrote it a long time ago. There's a lot of stuff that could be taken out or updated or whatever. I was like, let's hear it. So we played it. We're like, yeah, that's got potential. We just need to hop in here and kind of take this and take it away, or put it here and reinsert. So we just kind of redid the whole song, but we already had a bass, which was cool. And we kind of just picked it apart and put our own stuff, each of us our own stuff in there, and really turned out cool, I think.
It's very cool. I really I like it a lot. That's awesome. Are you getting any love from radio?
Canadian radio. I haven't really done a whole lot on looking into American radio, because it's very expensive, and you definitely need some companies backing you as far as promoting to radio stations. They're being Canadian, they're not going to choose me over another American. So you definitely have to have, you got to have the right promo going out there. Canadian radio treated me really good. We had some good traction on Canadian radio, but
Okay.
American's definitely where I want to shoot for.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And have you, like, as many years as you've been in the business, are you like, uh do you have guys that are like wanting to be your agent? Or I mean, I know this is a crazy time, but like, have you gone through seasons where you've had an agent, or you've had opportunities to work with an agent, or have you been shopped to labels before? Where are you with all that? And where have you been? What's your journey been like when it comes to the back end that people don't know about?
Yeah. So the label part, I'll answer it a little separately here. The label part, I had some opportunities when I moved to town that I was not ready for. Just not look. I mean, in my head I was, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, I would have turned you down too. Or I just wasn't ready, wasn't prepared with songs. My writing wasn't there yet. Stage performance, I would say I was okay still, but they were focusing on songs, and even as far as how you look, how you dress, I was not prepared.
Okay.
So if I got those opportunities now, I think that might be a game changer. But yeah, that was the record label opportunities were early on. And then as far as agents or managers, I've had a couple people come through that just there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on that side of the business. I've seen it and not I've gotten myself out early enough. And then there's a couple that just kind of didn't go anywhere. And yeah, just I wouldn't say fell apart. They just kind of disintegrated and didn't go anywhere. So yeah, there's been those opportunities, but the right one hasn't presented itself.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity,
I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're vulnerable enough to say, like, on your early days, it wasn't the right time on your behalf, like with a record deal. Because, it's sometimes it's hard, like, for your ego to say, or pride, to be like, well, I just, whatever the reason, but I mean, if you look at the big guys, dude, like, I mean, Toby was sent home from Nashville. Garth was sent home from Nashville. I mean, people were sent home from Nashville, and way more than we know. Like, we just know the stories, but a lot of people were sent home from Nashville. They weren't ready. So that's cool. When it comes to like playing like lower Broadway, and there's so many bars, they're everywhere. When you book those, what's the process nowadays? Is it like, are you knocking on doors, quote unquote? I say that loosely, but how are you getting those gigs?
So my first bar I ever played at was Tootsie's, which nowadays they own half the bars on the Strip. But,
really?
Oh my God. Yeah. So they are part owners of, so they got Tootsie's, they got Rippy's, Honky Tonk Central, Kid Rock's, the diner, 6-story diner downtown. And then they own, there's 2 Tootsie's in the airport in Nashville. There's one in Panama City, Florida. They own golf course. Like they went wild.
I didn't know that.
So that was a good hookup to get in with them. But literally all I did, I walked in the front door, Tootsie's. I went to the bartender. I was like, hey, is your booking agent in today? And she's like, no, but here's his phone number. Like, okay. So the booking agent ended up being part owner. So that started everything off. I was in that night for an audition at Honky Tonks Central. And the next day I was hired full time and multiple shows a day. And
were you, sorry to interrupt, but was that like at that time, was it you and your guitar, or did you have a band around you?
It was both.
Okay.
They would book me for acoustic shows and full band. I was
playing a full band.
No, so I was no. I came into town solo. Obviously, I was a full band guy, but I came into town just me and my guitar, and they would put me with a different band every night. I'd be meeting the new band members. Every single show I played was meeting people.
And you would just adapt. That's probably pretty normal.
It's very normal, and that I would say was a huge part of me going from a good entertainer to whatever I am now. Was really? Yeah, if you're not good, you're either gonna get good or you're just gonna get laughed out of the place, because these guys you're playing with all the time, they're different. They've been around here for however many years, and a lot of them, I mean, the one guy was Tim McGraw's full-time drummer. The other guy was Florida Georgia Line's drummer. Dirk Bentley's guitar play. I mean, they're all, if they're not touring, they come and play on Broadway
Sure.
and make a living that way. So you're playing with really good musicians. So either you get good quick, or you're not going to feel at home and you're not going to feel comfortable playing down there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so that got you in.
Yeah. So that got me in. I played their circuit for almost 7.5 years. And then it just kind of felt like time for me to branch out, and I wanted to start doing more out of town stuff. So I did that, and then ended up getting in with Nudies, who owns Johnny Cash's. So I was playing those bars a lot, and now kind of moved into Blake Shelton's Old Red bars, and they have a couple across the country that you can bounce around at as well. And they're a little more corporate than the bars I've previously played because they've been privately owned, but they treat us musicians really well, which sometimes is hard to find around there. And so I've just been kind of sticking with them right now, and they have great stages, state-of-the-art sound, and it's just a really, really good place to play. So you can definitely find me at Old Red the most as far as Nashville goes.
Right now. Gotcha. And and how many locations does Old Red have? Do you know?
So right now, I believe they're at 4. I think that, so they have one in Nashville, one in Gatlinburg that I actually just played at last weekend, and one in Orlando, one in Oklahoma.
Right. They don't have one in Vegas?
Not that I know of. I don't think so yet.
Okay. And when you play those, are you playing are they running house bands, or are you bringing a band?
Bringing a band.
You are?
Yeah. Those would just be basically, if we're touring, I'm going to bring the band. Be the same thing.
Gotcha. And then they all have house sound though. So like you said, they have great sound. So it's plug and play. It's
plug and play. Yeah. Even most of them, they're going to even have drums. Like you really are just bring your instruments, cables maybe. And
that's awesome. I don't know if you remember, this is just curiosity. When I saw you in so are you still playing Johnny Cash on occasion or no?
No.
Okay.
I still have my foot in the door there if I want to, and like everything was good. I just needed a change.
Sure.
So
the band you had there, is that your? And I say your band, I don't mean that like you own the band, but I mean, is that the band you play with? Do you recall?
Yeah, it should have been.
Okay.
95% of the time it's going to be the same guys. The odd time they're going to go on the road with somebody else, or everybody's doing different things, but most of the time it's going to be my guys.
Gotcha.
Trying to remember back when you were there, it would have been, was the bass player wearing a kilt?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had Jake Bishop on guitar, Brandon Roberts on bass, and TJ Case on drums, most likely. And then Kelsey Hickman when we'd have a female singer.
Yeah. And was she just picking up with you guys, or is she actually, like, does she just pick up gigs? Because how does that work? Do you guys do stuff together occasionally?
Yeah, we kind of have a cool backstory. We got hired at Tootsie's about the same time, and we did a lot of shows together for a long time. And then we kind of just eventually we got split as far as like the owner wanting to do different things with our band. And so we kind of got split up, and obviously we stayed friends, but we didn't sing together anymore for years and years. And then all of a sudden she had no shows. And I'm like, well, it's perfect because I just happen to need a girl singer. And that gave us a chance to team up again. And she was always a blast to play with because I give her a hard time. And she takes it like a champ.
That's awesome.
It's good chemistry. Everybody has always loved the chemistry on stage with us. So it was good to get back sing with her. I think actually you probably saw us when she started back.
Oh, really? So it's probably
pretty fresh. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so let's move through a couple more things, and I'll let you get back to your stuff. So, so what I didn't know was that you're totally into dirt bike stuff. Talk about that a little.
Totally.
Let me fire off a few things at you. Let's talk about dirt bikes.
I'll just say dirt bikes came before music. Perfect. As far as, I've always had a love for music. I grew up, my my aunt would play everything under the sun all the time. I grew up, with Garth and Dwight and Al and all that. But as far as for outside of listening to music, dirt bikes came way before performing or writing or any of that. Yeah. I think I was 3 years old when I wanted one. We didn't have money growing up, so I'd never got one till I was 12. And when I did, it was so I was 12, I don't know, would have been early 2000s. And my bike was a 1979, I believe, Yamaha YZ80, and metal gas tank, big freaking headlight on the thing. But it taught me how to ride. It got me through that phase. And then my aunt and mom saved up and got me a 1997 Suzuki RM80 dirt bike, and I started racing on that. And that was always my dream. It was a 97.
Were they still orange, or had they moved to yellow on the Suzuki?
They were yellow and purple.
Do you remember when Suzukis were orange for a while?
Yeah. I can't even look at that. It's just weird.
That's so funny. Okay, then you started racing.
I'd always wanted to race. So when I got to the point that I was getting good at riding, I got into racing, and turned out I started winning races. And so then the next thing, they saved up again, realizing this is like, I was really loving this. Yeah. And they bought me my first brand new, it was a 06. It was brand new Suzuki RM85.
Yeah.
And raced the hell out of that machine. And then we went brand new again, and I got my first 250 4-stroke, and won a Suzuki.
Okay.
Yep, Suzuki RMZ 250. Raced the hell out of that thing. Had a lot of injuries, crashes, and stuff, but I won a regional championship. And it was at that point actually where music really kicked in, and I kind of had to decide one or the other. And I've stuck with bikes my whole life, but I quit racing full time at that point to get into music, and hopefully eventually move to Nashville, which worked out.
Yeah.
But to this day, dirt bikes, sports, street bikes, and cruisers, I still love all the time.
Okay.
Love them. Yeah.
So, a couple more for you. So, how are you aware of, do you know Kenny Bartram?
I don't know Kenny Bartram. I used to watch all the freestyle,
like before night, like X Games.
Oh, X Games. What's the one with? What's that?
Gravity Games.
No. Why am I drawing a blank right now on this? Crusty Demons.
Oh yeah.
And things like that. Just those old school, when freestyle first came out, Jeremy McGrath was in it, stuff like that.
All those guys.
Yeah, so I was watching motocross and freestyle religiously. So all those, that was when Kenny Bartram was big, Twitch, and all those guys, Brian Deegan. So so I just know him from that. And then I saw you out at Kenny's ranch, and I'm like, well, son of a, I want out there. I just, I thought I got lucky. When Supercross came to Nashville a couple of years back, I ended up, Justin Hill came to my show and invited me out to his house in North Carolina and took me to the Suzuki test track and a couple of private tracks. So I got to hang out with Justin Hill and a couple other guys, which I thought was really cool. Really Alex cool. Martin was there. Yeah, it was like opportunity of a lifetime. I had Nashville shows booked, and I'm like, guys, I got to go take this motocross opportunity.
Oh, and,
so that was chance of a lifetime. Then I say, Kenny Bartram. I got to get out there.
Yeah, you will for sure. Well, he's never here because he's a busy guy, but we'll connect for sure. But that's so crazy. Justin Hill's awesome. I don't know Justin Hill, but I've always heard great stuff, and I heard he's really funny too. I heard he's crazy. So
him and his brother, they're both nuts. But
Josh is his brother, right?
Yeah. And Josh is racing Supercross this year, but they put out Big Hill Jam, which is just insanity on dirt bikes.
Yeah.
But if anything says they're crazy, it's meeting a singer that you just happen to be at a show at, and then being like, "Oh, you ride dirt bikes? Well, come to my house next week." So that doesn't say you're
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, that's
Yeah.
so awesome. Did you find out if you're are you playing a gig the weekend of the 26th? Did you just find out or no? February?
26th of February.
Yeah.
No, I still don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure I could just go ahead and book one. What I was waiting on was we were debating if we were going to be out of town on the last week of February. So that's,
Okay.
I'm still kind of up in the air, I believe, on that. I don't know if we're
Okay.
going to be here or not, but if I am in town, I'm sure I could easily book a show.
Yeah, we'll figure some stuff out. All right, so that's awesome. Yeah, Supercross is crazy. Motocross is amazing. I never raced. I mean, I've raced a couple races when I was a teenager, but just like fun stuff, nothing major. But I've ridden my whole life. My first bike was a 1980, same bike as yours, but it was an 80. So it had this metal tank. It was yellow, and it had like the 3 black stripes on the tank, and then it had a big cushion black ugly seat on it before they ramped up the tank. It had the dual shocks on the
I was gonna just ask you about the
Yep. And it was a 1980. I got in a lot of trouble, man. My mom, so we lived in San Diego, and so I had a bike in the middle of San Diego, but whatever. It was, my mom was awesome, and she let me get my first dirt bike, but I was never supposed to ride that thing when my mom wasn't home. And so I'd ride around. We had a tree in our front yard, and then I'd ride around the driveway. And my mom wasn't home one day, and I just decided I had to ride. And I decided I'd go around this block. And I rode around the block, and the guy that she bought it from, I drove right across the road, and he almost hit me. The guy almost hit me because I was like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that the car that almost hit me was the guy that sold the bike to my mom. So not only was he pissed, but he was on his way to take his dog to the vet that had just got hit by a car.
Oh, my God.
So he, of course, stopped, screamed at me and said, "You go park that motorcycle." And he called my mom. Before my mom got home from work, she was already, furious. And so that was a bad deal. So she sold the motorcycle. And then I got, when I got older, I got bikes. But it's great that my son's now into it. My son loves dirt bikes now. So it's fun. It's a cool sport, man. I think everybody, it's a cool atmosphere. Dirt bikes are fun,
It's a great atmosphere. I've always thought that, even like not just the racing, but just being at the track during races and practice. It's just awesome atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I was so excited when I bought my daughter a little 50 when she was 3.
Yeah.
And then we also got my stepson into it. So now he's got his own 450 right alongside of me.
Yeah.
So it's just such a good sport to be into. And I've always just been into kind of anything adrenaline. I did BMX before dirt bikes. When we couldn't afford dirt bikes, I did BMX.
Yeah.
Broke a lot of bones doing that.
Yeah.
And then now I've gotten into the paramotor flying world.
Okay. I want to ask you about that. Before I ask you about that, though, I can't remember what I was watching the other night, but I didn't have the audio on, and you were either at your house, because I know you guys are living on some property. You were somewhere walking around doing like a 360 view, and there was like golf carts, a bunch of dirt bikes, a street bike. Was that at your house?
Yeah, it's my garage. Yeah,
okay.
I got too many things in it.
You got a lot of toys, bro.
Well, I do. I like to buy, sell, keep, sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I like to play around with what I have.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have the audio on, so I didn't catch what was happening, but I just happened to notice. I was like, oh, there's golf cart. Oh, there's another golf cart. There's dirt bike. There's dirt bike. There's dirt bike. Street bike. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. That's cool. I no hate, man. I love it. I have a buddy who flips golf carts for a living, literally. Like he makes with a golf cart. So I dig it. What about this paragliding thing? Where in the world did this come from? And is it scary as it looks?
Yeah, that thing. So it's like I said, I just I like doing stuff on a whim. Always have. And that thing is just something I saw. I think it might have been on YouTube or something. I saw somebody doing it, and their legs dangling, and this fan behind their back, and they're thousands of feet in the air. And I'm like, what? I was like, I got to look into this. And I looked into it. There's no pilot's license needed. There's no, you just got to know common sense safety. And I'm like, this is too cool. So the next, I think it was that week, I was on Facebook and a buddy of mine, a drummer who lives in town, had one for sale. Like, I've never seen one of these things before.
Now
And this
someone
guy,
has one.
yeah, he has it for sale. I'm like, I will buy that right now. And sure enough, I went and bought it. And then I find out, I mean, there's a lot of research that you should be doing before you buy one. There's a lot of weight restrictions. There's beginner wings, advanced wings, and so there's so much to know. And I'm like, damn it. Then I found out, I was like, I'm going to try it anyways. I'm scared of being in the air for a little bit. Found out getting in the air is really difficult if you don't know what you're doing. So I tried watching YouTube videos. I ended up imprinting in my field behind my house. There's an imprint of my body when I went up and back down really fast. So that was the moment I realized I needed training, and there's training facilities all over the country. So I went to just south, I believe, of Orlando and got some professional training, learned how to do it, sold that setup because it just wasn't made for me. It was made for a guy a lot bigger than I am. And so I sold that and bought myself another version of it, which is a trike. It has two wheels in the back, one in the front, and you just sit there with a seatbelt on, big engine behind you with a propeller, and you got your wing up above you, and then you just face that thing into the wind. You learn the safety basics of it, and you just start flying.
Is it like undescribable to be up in the air?
It is. It's a whole other feeling, right? You're not inside a plane or inside a helicopter. You're just there, wide open. It's just you and a wing above your head. And I mean, and weather permitting, they're very, very weather finicky. These things can, not legally, but these things can go 18,000 feet.
Wow.
I mean, it's just wild. So yeah,
how high can you go legally?
12,000. And you got to know airspaces, you can't be around airports, things like that. But for most part, there's not really many restrictions. Don't go near airports. Don't go above crowds of people. That's about it. And 12,000 is when you get into commercial air. But that's pretty high. There's no reason to go higher.
Yeah,
anyway.
No.
But honestly, yeah, it was just, it was so cool to have, because like I said, I've always been so into adrenaline sports that this is just a different type. You're not going fast. You're going 20, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But just being in the air with your feet dangling and all the freedom in the world to go where you want is just a whole nother, it's calming, but it's also very adrenaline, because if something happens to that wing, you're that's where the adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah. And so when you do you like kind of break it all down and then take it to the location and build it all back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a parachute. It's technically, it's a wing, but it's same thing. You got to set that thing up. You set it out real perfectly against the wind, and then you hook it up to your machine. And it's nothing like I've ever done before. That's for sure.
How does your wife feel about you doing it?
Oh, she was so against it, but she also knows me, so that helps.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, the adrenaline sports came long before she did, so she accepts it. But she really was like, no, this time, like motorcycles and stuff, she jokes, you're gonna die. Don't die. This was, she's like, you're going to die. So I went and got the proper training, ease her mind a little bit, but still every single time I go out, she's like,
yeah,
I get the same eye roll every time.
Right. But so
she knows what to expect.
How long have you and your wife been together?
So we're about 8 years.
Okay.
We're going into 5 years of marriage. So
okay. And does she work full time as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And how is she as a wife of a not aspiring, but somebody that's in the music business that is, and I say this loosely, so don't be offended, but trying to make it, somebody that's got a dream and a vision and a goal to be successful to a large degree? Is she, obviously she supports it. I know that basically because she's on board with you, but that's not easy. Like how does that work?
No, I think anybody that's a spouse or a significant other of somebody who's in the music industry or any industry like it is, you got to give them props no matter what, because she had to put up with a lot But she also met me playing a show.
Gotcha.
So I guess I could say she knew what she was getting into, but at the same time, you don't know what's behind. You don't know what you're getting into.
Sure.
So she definitely had to adapt and had to put up with a lot that most people in relationships that outside of this industry aren't going to have to put up with. But yeah, she's adapted really well. I've also adapted real well, knowing that, you know, I'm married in the music industry. So yeah, there's a change on both our parts from when we met. That's for sure. But in the best way possible. I mean,
that's awesome.
Had I not met her, I might not be alive right now.
Sure.
The music industry gets pretty insane. So
absolutely. What is your what's next for you? If you could wake up, if you could go to bed tonight and you could just say, you know, like, where do I want to be tomorrow? What does that really look like? If money and fear are not an object, what does tomorrow look like for you? If you really could just dream big, what does it look like?
Freedom, just to do what I want. If I could be somewhere tomorrow, it'd be on a beach, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But just kind of, the freedom, obviously finances come along with that, but
sure.
The freedom to just play shows where I want, when I want. Like I said, I have a daughter up in Canada. My whole family on my side is in Canada. Okay. So the freedom to just be able to go see everybody in my family, my side of the family, just as I want to, and me and my wife travel as we want to. So music thankfully kind of plays into that, because there's so much travel that's involved in music, that as long as, like I said, I'm not on a record label or anything like that, I do kind of have the freedom, as long as the shows are paying well enough for me to travel across the country, that I can choose where to go, and it works out really well for the freedom aspect of it.
Yeah.
I don't do well when I'm walked into things. I've never been that 9 to 5. I've never been able to do a 9 to 5 because I just.
Yeah. I mean, if you were, I don't think you'd be doing music. Let's be honest. That wouldn't be your bucket, wouldn't be your funnel, you know? Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not me either. That's why we're here in the middle of a day recording a podcast, because we're allowed to, we chose that path, you know? Yeah. So that's very cool. I love your desire, your goal. How far is Canada from you? Like, where you're from in Canada, is that, forgive me for being naive, but is that like can you drive there?
Don't worry. I expect naive at this point. People ask me all the time, there's country music in Canada?
Well, I know better than that part. I mean, hello, Terry Clark. I hugged her once.
Yeah. hey, I know Joe from Canada. You must know Joe, right?
Right.
Yeah. Small country. No, it's so where I'm from, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. It's literally on the border of Michigan. Like, we would go, if we need a gas or groceries, we would drive into Michigan for them, because everything's cheaper. So it's from Nashville. It's a 12-hour drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not bad. I would do that in one day all the time. But where my daughter lives now, she's out in Alberta, northern Alberta. So that would be more of a 4-day drive if I were to. I've never driven it, but even my flights to get out there, I'm usually between layovers and airplanes. One way is usually 15 hours.
Is that right? And Alberta is just that much further?
It's that much further, and it's just not that northern part, other than Edmonton, just isn't that popular to go to. So you're sitting in airports a lot, and it's tough connections. But even if it was a straight flight, you're still, I mean, I forget how many thousand miles it is, maybe 2,500, 3,000. Wow. But yeah, I mean, you're still looking at, if it went straight there, easy 8-hour flight, 9-hour flight, probably.
Gotcha. How old is your daughter?
She's 9.
9. That's awesome. And you guys get to talk a lot?
Oh yeah. I mean, FaceTime's been just obviously the best thing ever invented for our relationship as far as long distance goes. COVID put a huge strain on my biggest strain in life was not seeing her through COVID and not being able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Completely out of my hands. So that was extremely frustrating to me, but I've been able to, the border restrictions let loose, and we were able to get her down here all of last summer. And then I go up there every chance I get, which I try to get up there every 2 to 3 months.
That's awesome.
And then get her here on holidays. So
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and real quick, like I want to wrap up here, but before we do, like, you know, your single Exit 40 that came out, you talked about, you know, being a triple ride, or I guess that's what you call it, like it's not a co-write, right? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's a co-write.
Okay. I really like the song. We talked about it. I know we're not like here just to push that song, but I do want to do anything I can to help, like, and, you know, just encourage people to go find you. And I will do that. In the description here, I'll make sure that I tag you and everything, all your social stuff for sure. But also what is next for you? What's on the horizon for you musically, specifically in your music venture? What's next for you?
Well, I definitely want to make more music videos. We have that. So the album that we're going to release is called State of Emergency. And the single State of Emergency we put out, I believe it was before Exit 40. And we did a music video of that, and it was awesome. It just turned out so good that I can't wait to do another music video. I don't know which one we're going to do it for yet, but that's definitely on the horizon. And then dropping this album, got to get this album out. I can't wait for that. Everybody's been waiting too long. We had these big parties planned for this release of this album, and COVID hit, and we kept waiting for it to let up and waiting so we could have these parties. Never did. So now we're just at the point we just have to release this thing, let people hear it, and get to work on a new album as well. Okay. So that's new horizon. I would say album release, some music videos, and I'm going to be working on writing a lot for another album. And getting into the studio. Hopefully.
Realistically, when is this album going to truly, do you think it will drop?
I would say, we're about to set a date, but I'm going to say mid-March to mid-April.
Really? Okay. So not too far away.
No, right. Probably just a little over a month.
Okay. Very cool. And what about gig wise? What are you doing right now on the Strip? Are you a couple days a week? Are you just what are you doing right now? Playing? Yeah.
So as far as the Strip goes in Nashville, just kind of doing, playing it. Like we're not doing a couple a week. Sometimes we're doing 3 weeks. Sometimes we might not do any that week. And other times we might do 4 a week. So it's kind of sporadic. Okay. And I'm doing a lot of call-in shows right now because we've been out of town so much that I'm like, hey, if say Old Red, if you guys have availability, you need a band, if I'm in town, give me a call, I'll come do it. And I'm doing a lot of acoustic shows as well, which is I haven't gotten to do acoustic in years. It was always full band for the longest time now. That getting to do the unplugged version basically has been so refreshing. You get to interact a lot with the crowd no matter what, but it's just so much more personal when it's just you and a guitar. So even the Key West shows that I just did were all acoustic, and man, they're a blast. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing a bit more of that, and maybe 60-40, 60% full band, 40% acoustic, or there's something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, man, dude, it's been a pleasure. I've been waiting for this for a long time, just to pick your brain and hear about music and about life, and so I appreciate it for sure. This will drop out on Friday morning at 8 a.m. Everybody that's watching and listening, I would just ask you guys to make sure that if you liked and enjoyed this, just make sure you share it, screenshot it, go follow Tyson. All of his, well, at least his Instagram will be tagged here below. There'll be literally you can click it and go hit follow. And then do me a favor, you guys, when you do that, make sure you go and check out his music. And if you can like or review or comment anything you can, just to help throw some love that direction is always going to be appreciated. I know that for sure. And if you're ever in Nashville, go find him at a live show because he will be out and about, most likely if he's in town. And I promise you will love the energy that he provides. It'll be a good time for sure. Man, and that's it. Any final words from you, my friend?
Well, I just wanted to say, because obviously I follow you back there on Instagram, Facebook, and I want to commend you on your your stories that you post that are very uplifting.
Thanks.
And having a good mix, though. I like that you have a good mix of just normal of normalcy in the middle. You know, you just hanging in your car chatting about whatever, and then you also throw those the positivity memes and all that. I think it's a really good mixture that people need.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. It's so important to me to be as authentic as I possibly can. And I just, whatever, dude, I appreciate you noticing. I just do whatever direction I can be. Whatever God leads me is who I am. I'm just along for this journey. I don't even know what it's supposed to look like, but I just want to share the love,
None
man.
of us do.
You know, yeah. I appreciate those words, though. They do mean a lot, and I look forward to get this message, this podcast getting out there, and I'm looking forward to the album dropping. So make sure you're like teasing it like crazy before, when you have a date, make sure you're pushing it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tyson Hanes Music on Instagram or Facebook, and obviously we got everything out on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all that good stuff. So
cool. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on.
all right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're awesome.